Trinomial Math. Today we are going to use a graphic organizer called the Frayer model, and we're going to look at what a polynomial is, or what are polynomials. So I'm going to start off by putting polynomials in the center because that's what we are defining. Okay, so let's first look at what is the definition of a polynomial. It is an algebraic expression that contains one or more terms. Okay, so what are some examples? An example might be just 2x squared. So you've got an algebraic expression. An expression doesn't have an equal sign. It's just polynomials, just terms. Okay, so there's one. And you might have 5x cubed minus 1. So there's another example. And you can add and subtract these polynomials. You could even have 3x squared y. That's another polynomial. Okay, so let's classify these by terms. Okay, we're going to look at one term first. Okay, if a polynomial has one term, we call it a monomial. Mono meaning one. Okay, we know that's mono is one. So some examples would be 2x squared, or maybe 5. That's a constant, but 5 is 1. Or maybe a fractional like 1/3 x to the 5th. All those are single terms. There's no adding and subtracting. Okay, one term is a monomial. Now, two terms, that is called a binomial, just like a bicycle. 2 wheels, 2 terms, bi meaning 2. So some examples might be 2x squared plus 1, or 5x minus 8x cubed. That is a binomial because you're adding and subtracting with 2 terms. Okay, and the last one we're going to look at is 3 terms. If a polynomial has 3 terms, it's called a trinomial, just like a tricycle. So you're going to add and subtract 3 terms. So you might have 1/3 x squared minus 5x plus 1. That's an example of a trinomial. Okay, now let's talk about how you define them by degree and what the name of that polynomial is. So for example, if you just have a degree of, or a polynomial such as a constant of 7, okay, the degree on that is 0. The reason it's 0 is because x, there's no variable with that number. So the degree is 0, and we call that a constant. Okay, so if you see a term, like these are terms, without a variable, then we consider it a constant. Okay, so another one would be like 5x. Now, 5x, we don't write a 1, but we know it's to the first degree. So the degree is 1 because that's the exponent on the variable. And that one is called a linear term. Okay, the next one would be 7x squared. Okay, this has a degree of 2 because the variable is to the second degree, and that one's called a quadratic. Now don't be tricked. Quad typically means 4, but in this case it's a second degree because it's a shape that is square, or 4 sides. And then the last one we're going to look at is a third degree equation. So I'm going to give you a polynomial with a third degree and with a second degree. Now notice this one has 2 terms. I don't look at this lower degree, I only look at this larger degree. So since this is a third degree equation, so the degree is 3, okay, I'll make a little chart here, sorry about that. Okay, this is called a cubic, okay, and that's how those work. So you got constant is one with no variable, linear has a first degree, quadratic is second degree, and cubic is third degree. Now let's look at forms. Okay, so what is standard form? Standard form is when you take a polynomial and you put it in order from the highest degree to the lowest degree. So let's start off with one that's not in standard form. So you might have 5 minus 2x plus 6x squared. Okay, so here's our polynomial. We have 1, 2, 3 terms. So it's actually called a trinomial because there are 3 terms. Okay, which one would we list first if we want it in standard form? Well, then we look at the degree. Well, this degree is 0, this degree is 1, and this degree is 2. So that 6x squared has to be listed first, followed by negative 2x, because that x is to the first power. And then we bring over the positive 5, because we look in front of it. That's positive, positive 5. So this is in standard form. So let's look at one more. What if you have 6x minus 5x squared plus 8? What would go first? Well, look at the degrees. This is first degree, this is second degree, and this is x to the 0. We just don't write that, but that's what it is. So what would go first? You would put this term first, and that negative comes with it because it's a negative 5x squared. Then we bring down that 6x, but it's a positive 6x. And then we bring down that positive 8. We don't worry about writing the x to the 0. We just know. Think in your head. That's like your think bubble, right? That's what you're thinking, that is x to the 0. And that would be in standard form. Now, let's talk about what lead coefficient means. A coefficient is the number at the front of a polynomial when it is in standard form. So we're only going to look at these two that are in standard form. So let's look at this first one. The lead coefficient on this one would be positive 6 because it is the number, the variable, at the front. Okay, the lead coefficient for the second one down here is negative 5. So that is what a lead coefficient is. So there we go. You've got polynomials, you got a definition. You can classify now by how many terms. You can classify by degrees, and you can put it in standard form and then identify its lead coefficient. Thanks for watching Moo Moo Math.